All right. Welcome, everybody, to episode 3 of the Hammers and Dice podcast. With me, as always, are Esteban, Reed, Beto, and John. And tonight we're going to be talking about how to design lists for events and also just for like maybe playing guys you've never played before. Just like a good list to bring when you don't really know what the situation is, if someone's a more casual player, more hardcore player, like kind of how to ride that line. But before we get into that, uh, we did want to give a shout out and congratulations to Reed for becoming the new LVO Horus Heresy. What's even the word for it? The
Event
leader,
organizer?
Event
the boss,
organizer? Yeah,
the
I think that's
creator,
right. Thank you
organizer.
guys. I
Three
appreciate it.
three cheers for Reed. Hip hip
Uh,
hooray. Hip hip
hurrah!
hooray. Hip hip
Thank you
hooray.
guys. Yes, very, very much looking forward to it. LVO is like one of my passions going to those for the past few years. So I'm hopeful that we can all of you guys will help me expand it this year, and I can't wait to kind of talk about it more. Me and Alex are working really, really close together, trying to figure out what this next year looks like.
LVO stands for Las Vegas Open, for anyone who may not know.
Right.
That's probably the biggest war game convention in the West Coast, as far as I know.
Hey, and not to like overhype our group as well, but like we had a lot of our people here. A lot of this group goes there pretty consistently, from what I understand. And last year, I think we had over 100 players. We had, I think, closer to 120. If you guys are know that, I don't really remember. I can get that statistic and come back to you.
It was a good amount. It was a good amount.
Good
Pretty
amount
big.
mean, like,
between
it was
all the systems.
Uh, yeah, I guess from what I understand, like it was a pretty big event. As far as size relatively in the States, we don't have a big heresy events all the time.
Hmm.
I think once more details come out, we'll probably do a themed show just on LVO and what's going to be happening. But for now, let's move on to. Unfortunately, there are currently no Heresy Thursdays because Age of Sigmar, I guess, is cooler than Horus Heresy, whatever.
Ooh. Hey man, I'm
Listen,
hyped for that. But I'm
we
also hyped for
survived the
everything.
fall of
So
seventh edition. We'll survive the fall of Heresy Thursdays, okay? We'll only emerge stronger after this.
But there are two things that I wanted to note. First is, even though it's not a Heresy specific box, actually, for anyone who's potentially interested in playing Custodes, they dropped a new Combat Patrol box that is like mostly Heresy legal stuff. It's like the Blade Champion that you can run as like a shield captain, and then the
With
two
Meridian swords, with like
Meridian
yeah.
the
swords,
dual
which like why
swords.
would you
Yeah.
equip them with anything else? Um, and then the two different troop options, like the custodian guard and the custodian wardens. Is that what they're called?
Wardens. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the
what they're called.
wardens.
But
And
you could
then
run those as the Heteran guard.
Yes.
well, there's the yeah, you can run them either way, and then there's also the Alaris Terminators, which are not heresy legal, but you could convert them or sell them. So either way, if you're interested in starting a little Custodes uh detachment, I think that's actually, even though it's not a heresy box, that's a pretty good box for heresy. Uh,
Also, don't let anyone tell you you can't use the Dawn Eagle jet bikes from 40K. Totally use those heresy players. Don't give Games Workshop your money too much to buy the Forge World ones.
I got a folder of like art from the old heresy just to prove that yes, those are legal. There's art on legal jet bikes from Horus Heresy Visions from like 2003 or whatever. So yes, I agreed with you. They're absolutely legal. They're, in my opinion, they're more legal than the Forge World ones. Just saying, I don't see art of those guys.
I mean,
Of
they're
those Forge World
also
bikes.
have pretty crappy rules, so I don't know that you even want to use them in the first place.
I don't mind them actually. I think they're pretty fun. We can get back to that another time.
Yeah,
Come back to me on my Custodes thoughts. We'll go on a deep
we'll,
dive.
we'll,
They need
we'll
a
talk about
shield
Custodes
captain
more
no one
later.
like.
Yeah.
And then also upcoming this weekend, there's a reveal show happening, and there is going to be some heresy reveals. We're not 100% sure what yet, but it's probably going to be some Mechanicum based on that last crappy teaser video that we got a couple months
I'm
ago.
gonna say it's close combat arms, so I'm not disappointed.
You think it's close combat arms?
That's
We
my
hope it does
expectation. So if it's Mechanicum, then I'll be happy.
I still think it's just gonna be a campaign book. They're just gonna announce it because they just got through Beta Garmin. They're gonna announce, the Civil War on Mars. They're gonna be like, yeah, guys, totally new book. We're gonna do brand new Apex missions. Pro tip: they're the same ones from the last two books.
Dude, I've been thinking about that since you mentioned it last time. I'm really on the hype train that I hope that that's right now.
And I do too. Unfortunately, I feel like this prediction results in much disappointment for all the Adeptus
I would
Mechanicus
like
players
that
because
because
we're not gonna get plastic.
it's Legio, or is it? It's Mechanicum, sir. Adeptus Mechanicus is 40K.
Oh, sorry, you're right. My bad.
For shame.
Shame.
We'll take the Adeptus Mechanicus models and the Scutari though.
I wish. Memes aside, like I hope to get. I wouldn't mind a campaign book because I would like new rules for Mechanicum. I'm kind of tired like playing Mechanicum the one way they should be played if you want to win, which is like they're Tau. You just shoot things and then they die. Like not having weapon skill 5 melee unit kind of sucks for Mechanicum. So, but new rules would be great. Please forge world.
I'm hoping it's a campaign book. That would be awesome. Even if it's just like the campaign book. It's just the Civil War on Mars, 2 or 3 new Mechanicum units, a couple of Apex missions, and I don't know, maybe like some sprinkling of a new character for, I don't know, who needs one? Salamanders or something. Just anything would be cool. I'm always a fan of the campaign books. I know they get a lot of flack, and I know that Fulgrim one was less than perfect, but I have been a fan of others, so I'm like, I don't know. I'm if it's a new campaign book, I'm stoked.
Yeah,
I'm with Beto. I love the 2 that I have. So more is good.
I'd be down for campaign book. I think it's probably going to be some sort of plastic mech. I don't know that it's going to be anything too exciting. Maybe, a Mech Knight or Thanatar or something. We'll see. But that's
nice.
my prediction.
I would hope it's a Castellax because the Castellax could be a good foundation. First off, it's a troop. I've obviously with the Cybernetica, but not only that, it could be used in the Legion so readily with the Prevailing.
Yeah, it's pretty common because Solar Ox can take it too with their Prevail equivalent. So yeah,
totally.
Castellax would be great.
No, that's almost like too good idea for GW to really.
GW, I'm available. You can call me anytime you need.
Okay, so I feel like we need at least one wild prediction. Can I put out a wild prediction?
Go for it.
Okay. So we know it's on Mars, right? Mars pattern everything, right? Clearly Mars pattern Warhound in plastic. That's gonna be the long shot, right?
Come on.
Come on, I gotta make at least one bad prediction. I think the book is a safe bet. Plastic Thanatar, plastic other guys is the medium bet, and then plastic Warhound. That's the long shot. Never gonna happen, but if it does, I'm buying a lotto ticket the next day.
If they had plastic Warhound, they could be like, all right, we're not announcing anything next year, but you get a plastic Warhound. I'd be like, all right, well, that's perfect.
All right, guys, see you next year.
It'll take me till next year to paint them anyways, so I'm like, all right, got my year done.
That's their secret. They're gonna just announce plastic Warhound, and then this should hold everyone in the Heresy community off for the next year until we come back to Heresy Thursday. It'll be renamed Warhound Wednesday.
I'm going to challenge you guys for LVO next year. Everyone to show up with a Warhound.
No,
the thing to do.
Rich.
Everyone, please get on it.
I have an unbuilt Reaver. Does that count?
You have to build that.
If it's there in person, built that day.
Got it. Sounds good to me.
Just show up with a box in his hands. Here's my Reaver.
Dude, every time I look at the Reaver, I'm like, I get hyped. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna work on the Reaver. I look at it, I'm like, no, not today.
If I bring a Chihuahua, would that count? That's a Warhound, right?
So we're not playing Tyranids now, so
it's a Ruinstorm Archdemon. Way better than a Warhound. Would probably kill a Warhound.
Oh, easily. So anyways, moving on. So let's talk about lists. So we each put together a sample lists for that we have taken to events or would take to an event. But before we get into that, I wanted to just talk about general, maybe some do's and don'ts. We have talked a lot about like self-moderation in the community, but I feel like this is a good episode to talk about like what that actually means. So one of the things that I think is really important is to not use the obviously overpowered units, or at least not too many of them, right? We're talking about like not using a ton of heavy support squads, not using too many Contemptor dreadnoughts or Castroferum dreadnoughts, just stuff like that where your opponent's going to see that and just kind of be like, oh, this is going to be that kind of game, you know? And that's not to say that we don't want people to bring strong lists, but it's almost more fun if it's a strong list that you don't expect, right? Like if I get beat by a strong list that I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, like it's almost more interesting than I'm like, oh, I just got nuked by 30 las cannons. Who saw that coming? You know?
There's a moment when you play like an overly aggressive list, and thankfully our community is pretty good about this, but there's a moment where you like put down your armies and you see what the opponent brought and you think, well, it's immediately an uphill battle. Like from the jump, from turn one, I'm already on the back foot, and that's just like a bad feeling because it feels inherently like, well, you know, I came in for a fair battle. I saw what I'm against. I'm screwed, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And again, like this is a game system that's meant to be for fun, cool, themey games. Which isn't to say that they shouldn't be challenging. I mean, it's, you know, I think we all want a game where it's like there's a little bit of competitiveness and you want to, you know, fight to win, but you don't want to just show up and be like, oh,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's like this misconception in the Heresy wider community where Heresy is all about taking whatever and putting models down and walking forward and rolling dice. I mean, and yeah, that's kind of cool if you have Philippine armies, but you know, something I appreciate about our group is we actually care about the game at some level, where there's some like puzzles to solve in like the board state. There's like tactics, and it's literally not just, oh, here's like 30 tacticals. They're gonna walk forward now, woohoo, and like lose my mind. Like, no, like we actually play the game, and but at the same time, we don't want to just be hyper competitive where we take like Fury of the Ancients and with all just Melta and Melta gun and Melta cannon, or take like 30 heavy support Marines, 20 last cannons and 10 Volkite, stuff like that. Like we want to, like Randy put about, like we want interesting lists that are still fun to play and can win.
Yeah. Well, because if you show up with an army of, if you show up with your Solar Auxilia, which I'm not saying is not powerful, but if you have, 70 guys on the field that have strength 3 guns and, you have some smattering of anti-tank in there, but your opponent shows up with like 4 Spartans full of Terminators. And you're like, well, it's not that it's not, fluffy. You could definitely see that somewhere, but it's like, are you going to have a really good time fighting that?
Yeah.
Not to say that it's a cool uphill battle. Anyone who wants to try it, bring it on. I just don't have the Solar Ox to play it. If you want to provide, happy to try. I just think like there's different options in there, like how you moderate, but it's also just like making sure your opponent knows what's coming. But for a tournament, then you then have to be kind of more hyper specific. So like I'll talk about it when I get to my list. Is like I normally play a little fluffier, so like I tuned up my list a little bit to be a little bit more readily available, so that it was actually fun to play with in some instances. But we can get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
I also want to put a caveat to sometimes people will hide behind the fluff in a negative way. Like they'll be like, oh, well, it makes sense that this army would have nothing but heavy supports and not really any tanks because like, oh, they got decimated here or something. And it is cool to pull from the fluff in that way. But when the fluff lines up with you having the most competitive army, that's not, you got to put it all aside. You still got to play a game that both people are playing. And when you hide behind the fluff, or you hide behind, well, this army is actually built this way, it's still hurting the game, even if you in your head are justifying it. So just to put that out there, I know that I've played against opponents who have justified their insane builds because they're of some passage from some obscure book or some.
Yeah, I mean, one of the coolest moments in the novels is in Betrayer, where the World Eaters invade Armatura and they send everyone, so there's no one protecting their ships. So when the Ultramarines attack and board the Conqueror, the only line of defense are like older dreadnoughts and stasis. So I mean, that's such a cool, like with Lork and like Fury of the Ancients, right? It's one of the coolest things in Heresy. But geez, if someone brings that to like a pickup game, even though it's cool like as fuck, like that's not going to be a fun game because there's like 12 dreadnoughts, right? So yeah.
Which isn't to say, like, look, if you're part of a local gaming group and you are playing with guys and you're all like, look, we're going with balls to the walls lists today. Bring whatever the hardest stuff, hitting stuff you have is. Like, that's totally cool. Like, but it's about your opponent being aware that that's what you're doing, and you both being on equal footing with that. It's like, all right, like today's the day we're both like making stupid lists that are gonna beat the shit out of each other. Like, great. Like, that's like, it's fun to do those games. You just like, your opponent just has to be aware of that. And the problem in a tournament setting is that like your opponent's probably not going to be expecting that kind of list. Or if you're just playing against some random person, they're probably not going to be expecting that kind of list.
And it's not just also in tournaments, it's even just like any events, especially for Heresy, where there's a lot of just like, here's a narrative event or like a gaming event, right? Same thing. It's a pickup game. So know the community, ask the TO how hard you want to go. So the big part is just know who you're playing against and know the people you're going to be playing against.
List submission is so important in these kind of events too, just because like, it's really nice when you have the ability to have like a TO to like look over things, to be like, hey man, I don't want to tell you to tone this down, but like, come on, like you don't need 6 contemptors, you don't need to run full insane Death Star battle squad, like.
Sorry, I have a baby that's supposed to be sleeping by now, but he's just gonna be chilling.
He's just excited for Heresy. That's why.
Yeah, he's an inductee right now. We gotta introduce him to our ranks.
Now that he's a Primarch, he's gonna be like a teenager in a few weeks.
Yeah,
gonna conquer the world.
Yeah, but what John was saying about like, yeah, I use the word tournaments, but what I meant is just Heresy events, because we don't really have Heresy tournaments. So
tournaments are a competitive format. Events are where people willingly gather to have fun and not be filthy tryhards.
When I say tournaments, I really mean like Heresy events.
Yeah, we use it interchangeably here in this episode. When you hear tournament, we're talking about just an event, right?
Yes. So like, again, nothing that's like competitive playing to crush everybody. Obviously you want to win, but you're not, and we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but like there's a lot of Heresy, or not Heresy, Warhammer 40,000 tournaments out there where it's like the players don't even seem to enjoy what they're doing, right? They're just like playing to crush their opponent. And there's like, it's like, what's the point? Like, you're playing with little plastic miniatures. Like,
well, it's for money.
I mean, some people
cases.
Yeah,
there's generally a prize support, and so like people see that as an incentive in it, and like not to say that we don't have prize support, but it's more of that idea that I think it's just they're more stakes in a way.
And I mean, I'll be fair. Like, I think there is some enjoyment, and me and Beto play Star Wars Legion, so we kind of engage in this a bit, but there is a kind of funness in breaking I'll be honest, like breaking the game and finding out the most efficient way to win, right? But this is like the Black Panther meme from Infinity War, where it's like, we don't do that here. This is not the place for finding broken combos and trying to table your opponent in 2 turns. We don't do that in Heresy. And can you do that in Heresy? Oh yeah, I'm sure everyone here can come up with like the most busted, stupid list in the rules, but we don't, because we don't want to play like that, right?
Yeah.
The other games are for that.
I think it's also a small community too. Like in the things, for every 40K player you find, for every like 10 40K players you find, you maybe find a guy who has an Age of Darkness box but has never built it. It's for a very small subset of the community. So to kind of come in where like a brand new player has to be like, who is basically just going to play the Army of Darkness box set plus a Leviathan or something, and they're like, woo, 3K, and then they're going to get absolutely annihilated by someone who's been playing and knows all like the best meta units. Like, we have to do self-regulating, because like, then who would want to play that? If that was your local meta, like why would anyone want to play this game?
I mean, that's literally like my first Heresy game ever was at like an event for like new Heresy players, and the guy I was playing was an Imperial Fist player who brought like Terminators with 3-up invul and shields and Solarite gauntlets.
Is that Beto?
Really?
No, that is where we met. Different Imperial Fist.
Yeah, no, it wasn't Beto. But literally every other person there was just playing with stuff from the Age of Darkness set. And this
Yeah.
guy happened to have been playing from first edition and was like, "Oh, I've got these shields and Solarite gauntlets. I'm gonna use them."
He's like, I'm gonna teach you the hard way, kid.
Yeah. To learn.
And going back to the list thing, right? And we're gonna talk about that more, but that's a legal thing you could do. There's nothing in the rules that say you can't do that. But in Heresy, it's all about it's like the should thing. Like, should you do that? Probably not, because then you'll just smash someone and like it's not fun.
Yeah. And there are a lot of events now are creating restrictions to try to curtail the worst of it. Like a pretty common one, and this is one that we used for our own event, that we ran a few months ago, is limiting it to 1 dreadnought per 1,000 points. Which
like, oh, sorry, I was just gonna say that like for such a divisive like world we live in, it is crazy to me that the heresy community globally has like accepted that unofficially. Like on Reddit, on like Facebook, or like Discord, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, 1 dreadnought per 1,000 points. Yeah, that sounds about right." And it's
because I think everyone realizes how reasonable
Yeah,
it is. Because everyone's
exactly.
like, "Do I want to play against 4 dreadnoughts?"
It's like, no, yeah.
Have you guys played games like that? I have, like, where like seriously my opponent showed up with mini dreadnoughts, and I was like, I'm in danger.
Oh yeah, I played Beto with his quad Marigal, but I also had like double Incandeus and double Leviathan, so it was kind of chill. But yeah, it's like, geez.
I recently played a game where I unfortunately brought 7 dreadnoughts.
Yes, let's go.
It was a 4,000 point game, and I did apologize to my opponent after the fact. I thought, okay, well, at 4,000 points, everyone brings the full cheese. I think I overdid it, and that is on me. And that is a learning moment for me. Like, even if at 4K the game kind of breaks, these guidelines should still continue through even bigger.
So I know we need to get to this list judging now. I'd like to actually suggest a format. Maybe we should each of us explain our list in whatever order we decide to go by, explain our choices, explain what we expect the unit to do, and at the end of that explanation, we provide a rating, scale of 1 to 10 of how bad do I think I want to play against this, with 1 being, this is such an easy list, I feel bad for my opponent, he brought this, and 10 being, fuck, I'm going to have a very bad day now. And I guess that's going to be our power scaling level. And to set that up, we should assume 5 is, this is going to be a fun match. Does that work for everyone? Is that an agreeable scale?
Sounds good for me.
Rating system is a little bit confusing, but we'll work through it.
Hey, this is the United States, man. We don't have good scaling. We measure things with bananas and dogs. Never mind the metric system.
Yes.
How big is this compared
to Ordo approval stamps? But it's definitely not Imperium sanctified.
I give this 5 chainswords out of 7.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. You're picking up what I'm saying. It's like the rating system's going to be wonky, I feel like. But well, Randy, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. Let's pause for 1 second. I'm going to hand off my son to my fiance.
The future warlord there.
So something I want to mention while Randy's taking care of that is an easy way to tone down your list is to just not take more than 1 of a non-troop unit, especially powerful things like heavy support squads. Like stuff, I guess maybe not as generally, because like bikes are fine, like seekers are fine. I guess like heavy support squads, like Legion elite units, I think those just take 1 of those. Don't take more than 1 heavy support squad. Don't take more than 1 of like Suzerain or Galvor back or whatever. Yeah. And you should be okay. That's a good rule of thumb.
No, I think you're totally right. I think usually, typically the Legion special unit is the real insane unit, and tripling or doubling that unit can sometimes break the game pretty heavily. So having I say this I typically run 2 Maragals, which is very evil of me. So
yes, it is.
I like it.
As you can tell already from the 7 dreadnought lists I ran.
To add on to that, I think maybe 2 of any kind of special unit is maybe the breaking point of any kind of list. Is if you're bringing 2 of your legions very specific cool unit that's obviously very good at doing its job, maybe that's the breaking limit. Like I know for me, whenever I play my list, Dreadwing Interrupters, scary plasma burners, everyone fears them. If I bring 1, it's not that bad. If I bring two,
right.
it's a panic fest.
Yeah.
So I think that's and if I were to bring a third unit, I can only imagine the shit I would get from everyone. Like Esteban,
Well,
three interrupters, three plasma burning squads, really?
it's also like yeah, like, okay, well, if I know that I want to bring the two interrupters, right? It's like it's the two very mean squads. So maybe in that situation, I don't bring the Knight Cenobium. You know, in that situation, I'm like, okay,
Exactly. Yes.
one way, let me not cheese it fully. You know, let me not be like, all right, well, every single thing in my army is the version of what it can be. You know.
I mean, that's a good point. I think like if you're bringing a couple really strong, close combat units, maybe you tone down your shooting, or vice versa.
Yeah.
If it's really strong shooting, maybe you don't stack the best close combat units just so that your army has a little bit of like a give and take. Or like if you're
Yeah.
doing kind of like even across the board, you don't necessarily have anything that's too overly powered. You're just kind of trying to, you know, take a more balanced list. Um, yeah, I can jump into my list now. It's a Thousand Suns list. I've taken this lists a few times to events and also just playing against random guys. Um, I've won with it. I've lost with it. I think it's like a pretty decent list in terms of like, not being something that's going to scare my opponent when they play it. The Rite of War is the Guard of the Crimson King. That's the one which makes Sekhmet troops, which unfortunately they're not line and they're super overcosted for what they do, so I don't take them. But the thing about it that I like is it allows you to deep strike up to 6 units, troop units of your choosing, and they get Fear 1 the turn they come in, which gives a lot of flexibility, I think, when you're setting up for different types of missions. Like if you have a mission where there's an objective in your opponent's deployment zone, being able to like, hey, I'm gonna deep strike a unit to get that objective can be really helpful. Uh, or, if you land up not wanting to do that, you don't have to. Like it's not like you're taking a drop pod and you're like, well, I have to use the drop pod. You can kind of choose whether or not you want to use that. And then so my HQ choices, my Warlord is a Cataphracti Praetor with a Thunderhammer, Combi Melta, and I upgraded him with the Psychic Discipline Telepathy because in the Thousand Suns you can give any of your independent characters a psychic power for a little bit of a bonus, which is awesome. And he has because also each character gets a minor arcana. He has the minor arcana that allows him to move an extra 3 inches, which is very helpful when you have Terminators that only have a 6-inch move. And his warlord trait is the Magister of Prospero, which is far and away the best warlord trait for a Thousand Suns because he and any psychers in his unit get 3d6 for rolling psychic tests and pick the lowest two, which really makes it easier to not rolling perils because I roll perils a lot with my Thousand Suns. Which is the biggest flaw of the army, as I'm sure many of you know. They're the only warlord trait, or they're the only legion trait that has that much of a downside, I think, of all of the legions. But so that kind of mitigates that a bit. The only downside to that warlord trait is that the additional reaction is in the movement phase, which I know we did a whole big talk about reactions in our last episode, and movement phase reactions can be useful, but they're not as useful as shooting or assault. So I don't love that, but I think having that extra D6 for the psychic tests more than makes up for it. I run him with a Cataphracti Command Squad, 5-man squad with 3 Thunderhammers, 2 Power Axes, and then they also have a Cataphracti Librarian with Biomancy in the squad as well, who has Corvidae as his minor arcana, which allows a the first wound to be like a sniper shot, I can pick where it goes. Which I use that in combination with the Praetor's Combi Melta. So if I'm, gonna charge into a squad and want to kill their character, I can kind of use that to snipe someone out of a squad. Which honestly, I forget to use it a lot of the time, but it's there. I have managed to pull it off a couple times, and it's fun when it works. Um, the reason I have him as a librarian and not another centurion with a psychic power is that he's cheaper, and he also gets to take a force weapon, which only librarians can take force weapons. Regular independent characters, even if you give them a psychic upgrade, still can't take regular force weapons. And then moving on to my elites, I have a 10-man Kenetai Occult Cabal squad. I love them. They're such a cool squad. They are very much a glass hammer. They hit hard, but they die so easily.
You have 3 ups, right? Not 2 ups.
Yeah, they have 3 ups, and they are literally the only unit in the game where to give their sergeant artificer armor is 15 points instead of 10. I
Jeez.
don't know why. It's crazy to me. Like it must have been a misprint, but they haven't corrected it.
Yeah, that's funny. But
It's 2 wounds each, right? On those guys?
Yeah, they have 2 wounds each. But there's plenty of other 2
Makes it a
wound
little better.
units
Yeah.
that it's only 10 points for the artificer. Like if you take
Right.
a veteran squad, it's still only 10-point upgrade for artificer armor for them. So I don't really know what the difference is. Or like Reaver, same thing.
It's like, man, didn't they have it hard enough already?
Yeah. The nice thing with the Kenetai is that their psychic power is special. It's separate from the other minor arcana. They get +1 to weapon skill, which bumps their weapon skill up to 6 for a full turn, which is fucking awesome.
that's pretty cool.
And +1 movement and +1 attack. So these guys on the charge, if everything goes right, they have so many attacks on weapon skill 6. And then they also come with the Thousand Suns special swords.
A Chean Force Blade.
Chean Force swords. So they're rending 6 up, which is normal, but they have a Chean Force, which gives +2 to strength. So they're strength 6 swords. So
that's pretty good.
Everything going off, you're hitting most things on 3s, wounding most things on 2s with a crap ton of attacks. So if you can get those guys in the right place, they are going to do some work, especially if your opponent is playing demons or corrupted word bearers, because Achaean weapons have the force subtype that instant kills demons. So they will absolutely decimate anything that's demon or corrupted.
Yeah. When you said it was a hammer, I was like, that's funny. I've only known them to be the most people like most difficult unit to move ever, but that's because I was only playing demons or corrupted units.
So I run them in a Proteus Land Raider with the Twin Link Blast Cannon and Searchlights. My next elite is Contemptor Dreadnought with double fists and grab guns in both fists. I love grab guns. I'm a little surprised we don't see more of them in the game. They're to me a classic example of something that is like perfectly balanced. They're amazing against tanks and dreadnoughts, and they're terrible against infantry. Like it's really nicely balanced. And I think that's really nice about these is because most of the time, what are you sending dreadnoughts after? Other dreadnoughts.
Dreadnoughts.
And if your dreadnought gets charged by another dreadnought, you can overwatch with the grav guns, potentially take off a couple wounds. But even better than that, if you get a hit, you're forcing them to charge through difficult terrain. And dreadnoughts don't have grenades. If you're being charged through difficult terrain, that other dreadnought's attacking you at initiative 1. That means that the dreadnought is assaulting you, is striking after you. So that gives you a huge like bonus in that combat. The next elite choice is, so I have 2 Tech Marines and an Apothecary that goes with the Kenetai. And I'll go through. So one of the Tech Marines goes with a 5-man Sky Hunter squadron with Volkite Culverins. These guys I essentially use like a mobile heavy support squad. I think they're great because unlike a heavy support squad, which you kind of have to just like stick on top of a piece of terrain and not move them all game and hope that you go first or that they don't get blasted off the board in the first turn. The nice things with these guys is if you go second, you can hide them and they've got a pretty big movement range. You can like move them out on your turn and shoot almost anywhere on the board with their movement and the 45-inch range of the culverins. And then attaching the tech marine to them, they have night vision, they're hitting on 2s, they're ignoring shrouding. It's a really cool unit. I also give them a Nuncio Vox so that they can re-roll the graph for the dread if he misses, and a Vexilla because they run 3d6 inches and I don't want them falling off the board. So my troops, so the second Tech Marine goes with a tactical support squad that have Aether Fire Blasters. These are the Thousand Suns special version of the plasma gun. So instead of being breaching 4 up, they're rending 6 up, strength 6, but they also have a chi and force, which gets them boosted up to strength 8. So they are pretty great against multi-wound models. They are, I mean, yes, you're fishing for those rends, but Terminator rolling a 1, you're getting a decent amount of shots because it's assault 2 instead of rapid fire. You're going to take out a lot of Terminators or veterans or any other multi-wounds that your opponent has. And I run these guys in a Rhino dedicated transport. They're not charging, they're getting out and shooting. So Rhino is a perfect choice for that. My 2 other troops, I have a 15-man assault squad. The sergeant has double lightning claws. I don't think that's the best choice, but it looks really cool. So
It does.
that's why I modeled him that way, and it works. He also has artificer armor, and then I have 3 guys with power axes in that squad. And then pretty bare bones tactical squad. The sergeant has a chain force sword, artificer armor, and then a Vexilla in there as well. Those are my troops. And then for heavy support, I have Leviathan Dreadnought with double cyclonic melter lances and a Phosphex Discharger. I think, if he gets charged, and he gets stuck in combat, he's going to be stuck there all game. But if he gets his Overwatch off, like he's killing most things that are going to try to charge him. I've had a guy charge a Contemptor with like no wounds into him, and he destroyed it on the Overwatch. So he can be pretty powerful in the right circumstance. And he's good like fire support. And then I also have 2 Vindicators with Magna Laser Destroyers in separate slots, which are my like additional anti-tank. They're not the strongest, but that was kind of the point. I wanted to have something that was like it felt a little different, still packs some punch, but isn't going to be overwhelming. Because I do think I have like a decent amount of strong close combat in my list. So like I was trying to balance that out by not being too overpowering with the shooting. And yeah, that's the list. A couple of you guys have played against it, so you can speak to what it's like to see it from the other
I think
side.
it seems fairly balanced. I mean, like you talk about it being like a very heavy hitter in close combat. Actually, I think it's fairly, besides your Cataphractic Command Squad and your Contemptor, and I know the Kenetai are situationally pretty good, but really like you're fairly solid in both like your ranged and melee aspects.
So what's the scale, Reed? What's the 1 to 10?
I'm gonna give it 1 bolter out of no. Truthfully, out of a 1 to 5 scale, I would truly give this probably like I guess I don't know how we're doing this once again with the 1 to 5, but like it seems like a good list to play against, and like once again, like Thousand Suns are very mild right now this edition, and with that in mind, like nothing in here seems like game breaking. The Vindicators are really great to take out your long range problems, like your big tanks that somebody might unfortunately bring against you. Where like obviously your Sky Hunters are great to take out. Once again, that kind of heavy support movement is really great. Obviously, I think this is a good list to play against. Truthfully.
So you're giving it a solid 5, right? Middle of the road. You don't feel it's a negative list. You think it's just perfect.
Just right.
Just right.
And I wouldn't expect anything less from Randy, except for your Ultramarines list. I know that you've thrown those down.
I mean, we've talked about this before, but like that
was
why
the first
I chose
list,
this army,
right?
because I was
I
like,
know.
Ultramarines are way too overpowered. I wanted to have something to bring that I wasn't going to feel like an asshole for bringing it, and that was like the
Totally.
reason that I created this list and this and chose this army.
And it feels really good where like, Thousand Suns actually kind of need a little bit more punch right now. I would say kind of pound for pound for their, to make up for the lack of their, quote unquote, Legion right of rules really, in certain most instances. Yeah. How do the rest of you guys feel?
Yeah, I've played it many times. I think it's like it perfectly encapsulates what like you want to play against, which is like I'm not seeing the same units from every other list, and I'm seeing like really thematic units, like the special plasma guns and the Kentai, which I'm sure if someone were to make some like actual super math hammer meta, what you absolutely need to bring, I don't know if they would include like fun units like that. Even the Vindicator tank destroyers, I don't see anyone else really run, which they are good. Like this isn't to critique any of these units being bad. They're just, I think there was a cognitive thought process behind like being like, I don't want to bring the full, 10-man last cannon classic setup that 9 out of 10 lists you see are running, and it's definitely a list that is worse if you play demons or corrupted. It can absolutely smash my teeth in if anything that corrupted goes up against those Kentai, so they're usually target number 1. But yeah, that I can't blame my Legion choices for the army going up and down. So against my Imperial Fists, I think it's a 5. I've had games that I've won. Randy's had games that he's won. Against my Word Bearers, it's like a 9. It's the at times played, but only because he kills everything instantly with like a plasma gun.
Okay. So take an average, call it 7.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I mean, realistic, I think it's a great list to play.
Realistically, perfect 5. But against that one Demons player, it's a 9, 7. Oh boy, I'm in for a bad time.
Yeah.
John, you want to go next?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid list. There, like Beto said, there's no Mimesis Recon squad. There's no heavy support last cannon squad. I would even play this in my Word Bears list just to see how it is, because that list has like 10-man last cannon and dreadnoughts, so it has the tools to deal with the force weapon units. And yeah, I like that. I think Beto put it well. It has units that are unique to Thousand Suns, which are the Kinetic Blade and the plasma dudes, or the special plasma gun support squad. So, and laser vindicators, you really don't see those, and I'm glad those are included instead of another last hand support squad. So yeah, I saw if 5 is like this is a great balanced list, I'll give it a 5. Also very different from last. I mean, for the listeners to know, I played Thousand Suns of 1.0, and yeah, we're definitely paying the sins of first edition, where we had like 3-up Invulsec met with instant Death Force axes. Yeah, so this is a cool tame list, and I'm all for it.
Nice. All right. So I guess my turn for opinion. So I remember playing this the first time, and I saw it, and I thought, oh, this is scary. My initial thought was, this is like a 7 list. He's got firepower, he's got psychic, he's got everything. But once I played it, I realized, oh no, this actually isn't so bad. So I actually want to give it a little bit lower rating. I'm gonna give it a 4. This thing is not particularly scary. It's definitely gonna punch and go through, but based on our one game where I had a Rhino run into the into the Leviathan Dreadnought, and you rolling 3 1s on the Meltagun, maybe it's not actually that scary. But it is honestly a very well balanced list. Honestly, it's got a little bit of everything. It's got a a good even spread. There's not one boring thing here. It engages at all ranges. It has long range anti-tank, anti-troop. It has close range anti-tank, anti-troop. It is a very good all-rounder list. And the only reason I would ever give it a 4 is because it's Thousand Suns. that is the main detractor here, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's the perfect list to be like going up. Like if an opponent brought this army, I wouldn't be like so immensely overwhelmed that I'm like, ah, crap. Like it's exactly the opposite of what I was saying in the beginning, where it's like it's not the army where you're like fighting an uphill battle from the beginning. Like it's a very fair army to play against.
Yes, it is very much so. All right, who's next now?
I want to volunteer. You take us away.
No, I want to volunteer Beto. I want his really cool list because I like his list.
Okay.
Do it better.
So I'm gonna be reading it off my phone, so everyone, please bear. I've only had so many games with this. My White Scars are like pretty brand new to me. I've probably played like maybe 6 or 7 games with them. Like with Randy, I think we like our first armies, I played Imperial Fists and Randy played Ultramarines, and we got every single great unit ever, and then committed war crimes against playing each other because we would run the most aggressive lists ever. And I think we quickly realized that maybe that was becoming a little too extreme. So I think we both made an effort. I mean, I did less. He really toned it down with Thousand Suns, and I thought I took Sword Bears, but I guess not as much as I thought. But for my third Legion, I wanted to be like, okay, what's like a very bad list? You're like, if you were to look up right now on YouTube, top 10 worst Legions, the White Scars are absolutely up there. For starters, their rights of war are either you run a ton of bikes or you run a completely infantry heavy army, which sucks because neither of the rights of war work with each other very well. So like if you wanted to run the bike version, well, you're going to buy a ton of bikes. And then when you want to run the other right of war, you're gonna be like, well, those bikes aren't troops anymore. So it like completely is just the least synergized army. You'll buy a unit and you'll be like, this unit can only be used in this right of war, and it's impossible to be run in a different unit. Like I can't buy Scorpiuses because I'm like, oh, I can't run a heavy support. So all this is to say, I was like, I wanted to try the bike list, and so I'm running Jagorian Brotherhood, which is the all bikes. Essentially, what the right of war does is all Outriders and Sky Hunters become troops and gain line. Anything that's not infantry has to either be in the game like in reserves or deep strike or something. If you have infantry, they gain outflank. I've never used that before. Like if you want to, and if they have infantry too, you have to start them in a transport. So like a Land Raider or a Rhino or something. So it pretty much eliminates like a ton of options. And then the biggest hit by far is that the only heavy support you can run in this Rite of War is flyers or specifically only flyers. So all tanks are pretty much very difficult to get into the list. So you're running a very bike super fast army. One good thing about the Jagorian Brotherhood versus just the basic jet bike Rite of War is that you gain Outriders as troops in line, unlike the standard issue. Anyone can take that Rite of War. And you also gain the ability to take Dreadnoughts, which is not available in the standard issue jet bike become line and troop choice version. So my Warlord is a Delegatus, and I run him on a combat bike, not the full jet bike. I run the Delegatus with a 9-man command squad with 2 Lightning Claws, 3 power weapons, and 4 power fists. Good thing about running them on the combat bike versus the jet bike, which I think everyone in the comments is going to be like, why aren't you running the jet bikes? The jet bikes become extremely expensive. The combat bike is the same points as a jump pack. So the command squad doesn't become like insane very quickly in terms of points. And if you run that full bike on jet or command squad on bike, jet bike kind of status, it's like you're talking about probably close to like a 500 point unit, which is just never going to be worth it. So on the combat bikes, I think they still move 15. They get a +3 to their charge, and if this Delegatus I don't run particularly with the Cyberhawk, but if I run the Cyberhawk, I get a potentially a +4 to the charge. So they're still extremely fast and do everything that I want a command squad to be doing, minus not, I guess, jumping over impassable terrain with a jet bike. So yeah, so he runs with his 9-man command squad, and then I run a second command squad because I wanted more troops in the army. So I run a 9-man command squad with 5 power weapons and 4 power fists. These guys are on foot, so this is the only way I can get a Land Raider into the list, pretty much. So essentially, this is my workaround to get a Land Raider because I can't take it under the heavy support choice. So they run with the second Delegatus, and this Delegatus does have a Cyberhawk because they are only running on foot, so any inch that I can get for an extra charge is going to help me out. And so then I run a Legion Chaplain. He's also on the bike. This helps so much in the command squad bikes because, I love my command squad, but they're, if you get charged or if they hold the line, you're really only getting 2 attacks with a power fist per guy that has a power fist. And if you whiff those, I've seen a command squad like go down super quick. So just having the Chaplain just helps so much. And also because a command squad can't take a Vexilla, I am very susceptible to, if that squad gets shot enough, I can fall off the board super fast. So just having stubborn leadership 10 on the Chaplain is just a lifesaver. So for my troops, I run an 8-man Sky Hunter squad. So with that one, it's just 8 Volkites, Artificer Armor, a Vexilla, and a Power Fist. It's exactly what you'd think for any kind of Sky Hunter squad or like the jet bikes. The Volkite, I think, is the absolute way to go. It's only 5 points, so it keeps them cheap. I think all other options are fine, but the reality is that the Volkite is going to do like all the damage you need it to do. People tend to want to run these with the multi-meltas, which I think is a big mistake because it like brings them up in points, and it's already, for 8 of them, a 335 point unit. So it's like not a cheap unit by any means. Why would you want it to get to close to like 400 points for a squad that can never take a cover save? And if a last cannon Land Raider shoots at them, will kill more than half. So definitely trying to keep those as cheap as possible. Then I run a slightly smaller squad of 7, exact same loadout, besides just 1 less. And then these 10, so I run a 10-man Legion, like, what is it? Like, it's called like the Sparta combat bike or something, but essentially it's the Outriders. I run 10 of those with 10 plasma guns, Artificer, and a Vexilla. They're historically one of the most hated units. I've heard people laugh at them many times. I'm trying to make them work. The cool thing about them is that they gain Scout. So at the beginning of the game, you get to move up 12 inches after the seize roll. So that could be, as soon as you see that that your opponent sees or that you didn't go first, you can move them back into cover or something, or away from the main shooting. And then if you go first, that's a 12-inch free move, and then a 15-inch move afterwards. So you're almost guaranteeing that your plasma guns are going to be in rapid fire of something. They're going to get eaten the next turn. There's no way they're going to live, but that could comfortably take down a Contemptor Dreadnought with 1 round of shooting, with maybe a slight bit of help from a last cannon or 2, but consistently whittles down any major players. And it's also line. So I'm never feeling like I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sacrificing a line unit or something. Because this list has 5 line units. The Siege of Chthonia, all the special games right now are super line heavy, or like you need line units. So I'm trying to maximize as much line while having fun with it. For fast attack, I had to take 2 javelins. Like, come on, it's a White Scars list. You got to see the javelins. I would like to eventually run the special javelins that the White Scars get access to, but they're not as good as the regular ones. So until I can free up some points, I think for now, just having those multi-meltas and the 2 last cannons are just going to help so much. I also don't ever run them as one squad if you can, or like as the 2 of them in one squad if you can avoid it, because this essentially makes them fearless, because they're never going to take a morale test if they can't lose a guy from the squad. So as just solo, you're just ensuring that they're going to stay on the board. And then my elites and final, because I have no heavy supports, I have 2 identical contemptors, both of the melta cannons. They're just cheap, and you need contemptors. This army needs something to punch, and the contemptors are honestly the only way I can get that. So yeah, 180, nothing special on both of those. And then the last thing I run is a Castaferum Dreadnought with the twin last cannons and the searchlight. This army does not have that much searchlights or ability to shoot at night fighting. It just kind of relies on me getting closer and then running away with my special reaction. So just having the insurance policy of an extra searchlight and also extra last cannons to potentially hurt a vehicle, which I'm very bad at hurting, is just really great. Yeah, so that's 3,000 points of white scars.
Who wants to give their opinion first?
So I played against this list like twice. Which one's the like? What's the highest rating you can give? Like this is amazing. I will play this every time.
5 is perfectly balanced. 10 is I'm scared to play this. 1 is I feel bad for my opponent playing.
Oh, got
this
it.
List.
Definitely a 5 because this is the most unique list I've ever played against in 2.0 because it's just bikes. It's bikes and fast stuff. There's no dudes on foot. That's besides the contemptors. So yeah, it's absolutely unique, and I love this list. This list makes me want to build like a Death Guard army so we could play Warhawk. I mean, I'm not gonna do that because I got other stuff, but yeah, this is great.
Alan's army. Yeah.
I know, right? this list is amazing.
I'm very excited to play against this list. I'm a little scared to play against it because it's got so many Volkites, but I think it's going to be really fun. I think it feels very fluffy, and I love Sky Hunters. Obviously, I run them in my list. The nice thing about them is that they hit hard, but they die easily. So it's like it's a nice balance. They almost die too quickly. I mean, I feel like there's a debate now where like maybe they should be T5 or something to give them a little bit more toughness. But in this list, it does. That is like the weakness of this list, and that's why it doesn't feel too overpowered as out. You've got a lot of hard-hitting units here, but a lot of them are going to die pretty quickly to pretty much anything that shoots at them. So yeah, I mean, I would give it like a 5 or a 6. Like I definitely want to play against it, but I'm also a little nervous to play against it.
You shouldn't be nervous. It can very quickly I should say about this list, I have very rarely had games where I had more than so I either live completely and very little gets hurt, or most of the time the game is I have 2 jet bikes in the corner left. It is completely gone. If there's ever an attrition point or for you're having more models, I will lose that every time because I'll have more units than my opponent.
But yeah, no, I like this list. I think this is like the kind of list that I would like to see at an event as being like something different and something that you have to think strategically about playing, but you're not scared to play it. You're not going to go to play against this list and be like, oh, I've already lost. You're gonna feel like it's gonna be a fun game.
Agreed. Reed, you want to give your opinion next?
Yeah, I've been I'm over here thinking about it because Beto, I don't think it's a too tough of a list. I'm interested in why you ran 2 Legion Delegatus's, if you can talk about that more.
Yeah, it's exclusively so I can run command squads.
Right.
It's cheaper than the Praetor, and if you run the Praetor, which I would much rather do, because it gives them way more of a bite. If you run the Praetor, you can't run a Delegatus. So
right.
Almost like the workaround is just to take multiple Delegatuses.
Because I do actually like that you included an option in there to take a Land Raider, because obviously those are in the White Scar armies a lot. It surprised me actually reading your list when your fast attack slot was so empty. That was kind of a surprising thing for a White Scars army. I think it's really fun at the end of the day. The Castaferum Dreadnought is probably the one thing that I'm that makes it kind of go like, okay, yeah, that's probably an ad to just get a little bit more like punch in the army, which like I totally get. Like we'll get that to like I added that to my army as well, because like you don't want to show up there and just be like a pushover, but
Yeah.
because like you want to be able to like take out, like when somebody shows up with a Spartan, you gotta have an answer at some point.
Yeah.
Even if it's like a small one.
Yeah, and then like my Raider is the only thing with las cannons without that. Or I mean, I guess the javelins, but you can't really rely on javelin las cannons. They have a tendency of rolling ones and twos every time it matters. But yeah, it doesn't have that much anti-tank. So I was just like, I needed the 4 las cannons, and I couldn't quite swing the points to do it on a full contemptor body. So I'm like, well, the caster ferrum is a little cheaper and a searchlight, so I'm happy with it.
I haven't played that much against Spike, so I don't really know how to judge this very much, but like I'd probably give it around a 6. And like not only that, maybe like a 7 actually, because like you've got 3 dreadnoughts in here, which is a pretty like, that automatically scales it up. Obviously one of them is a Castaferum. But it's a very it in the way that John talked about it, it's like it's an all bike list. Like it's gonna be really fast, it's gonna be really kind of niche in a way, like hard hitting. If you're not ready for it, it could be, a kick in the balls, but obviously all of a sudden, it can go away really quickly as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. So Reed, I do agree with you. I give this thing a solid 7. And honestly, if we did have those bike changes where everything is toughness 5 or an additional wound, this would be a straight 10, because this list terrifies me as it is.
Yeah.
It's so fast, and that's more as a result of a skill issue for me. Unfortunately, I hate playing against fast armies because I have such a hard time pinning them down. I look at this and all I see is a white blur of death. I actually just finished rereading Lost in the Damned, and I got flashbacks immediately to Khosrow Khan riding across the empty fields. And I'm just like, oh, this is a scary list. I can't beat it. I'm gonna hide in the corner and shoot at it until it's not scary. So I give it a solid 7.
Only scary on turn 2, it's gone.
That's the problem. I have to survive to turn 2, and I think you would actually have a really good chance of wiping me at least halfway down on turn 1. Just because the list, and I want to say this just as personal experience playing against other players who like to play this style of list, you're so fast. I can't hide from you. There is no corner that is safe. There is no nothing that can hide effectively. As long as you move it and you have a good line of sight to it, it's probably dead on that first turn. So there's nothing that will absolutely survive. It's like I'm gonna lose something. I just have to pray I have a target-rich environment, and you choose to kill the things that matter the least. Which, as I know you're an experienced player, that's not happening. I'm going down pretty fast. So that's why it gets a 7.
Why don't you take us through your list next, this one?
Okay, so I gotta be a little admit here. I actually tried making it a little bit mean because I figured someone's got to make a mean list.
Oh, I got you.
It's funny when you say that, because if you're right, like yours is the armored spearhead, or okay, it's dark.
So I called it armored only because everyone's in a vehicle, and only because I think people sleep on it a little too much. But
gotcha.
To go over it, it is Dark Angels. I'm actually not running any Rite of War because I feel Dark Angels do best when there is no Rite of War constraint, because you can take everything at its best. So starting off with my Warlord, I've taken Corswain, of course, because he's the most badass MF besides Sigismund in close combat. Deadly guy. His Warlord trait kind of just giving +1 leadership to other things with Deathwing, but he's really just there for his Strength 6, AP2, Murder Strike 4 up sword. Will murder everything, even Dreadnoughts. And I have had games where first round combat, full health Contemptor has gone down to him just because of that initiative 5 strike.
Hey, I know you're putting Sigismund up there, but you also got to put Sevatar there if you're going to put him there with Corswain.
Corswain eats Sevatar for breakfast. I'm sorry. Sevatar's number 3, but that's the problem. Corswain's number 2. Considering on that, I'm also running a Centurion with them. He is a Dreadwing Moritat, so he's going to be getting rad grenades, 2 plasma pistols, and a charnable saber with melted bombs. He's just there to enable Corswain and his unit, which, just skipping down to troops, is a 20-man despoiler squad. And this is my pet unit. This is 20 despoilers with all heavy chainswords, no power axes, no charnable sabers and swords, no, all heavy chainswords and in Deathwing mode, because I love being able to instant death you with a chainsword. You think it's not threatening, but then you remember, oh, that heavy chainsword is strength 6. That doubles out once you add rad grenades into the mix. So it's my pet unit. I just love them too much. I like heavy chainswords. Sue me. Going back to elites now, 2 Contemptor Dreadnoughts. One is a Plasma Cannon Power Fist with the vehicle targeting array. This is my kind of mean poke unit because for those who aren't too aware about the vehicle targeting array, once you stand still and you activate it, you get no cover or shroud saves. So putting that 5-inch Plasma Bass template is just such a threat, especially against tightly grouped heavy last cannon squads sitting on a platform. They have to respond to it. So that's my bait unit. Make them respond to that thing first.
I think you can still get cover from helical targeting arrays. You just don't get shroud.
I think you're right. I think it is just not.
Yeah,
not
I think you do lose shroud. Yeah.
Right, but again, I want to make them shoot back at me at that unit.
Yeah.
Going on to the second Dreadnought, it's just a double Gravis last cannon Dreadnought with, again, vehicle targeting array, just being mean with the last cannons, and he is Iron Wing, so that gives him rerolls of 1s against vehicles, so that he is the tank hunter there. He's kind of my discount Deredeo almost. Going on to my elites, this is the scary unit that I know everyone in this group fears. It's the 10-man Dreadwing Interrupter Squad. They are spooky. So just 10 plasma flamers, breaching 4-up, strength 6. Sure, they're not instant death anything, but they are hitting so much and so much more. They really are my bread and butter. I took for a while. I took 2 for a long time just because the likes of Beto was scaring me with his Morrigal and everything else, and even that couldn't stop it. Beto, just as an emphasis, not even 2 Dreadwing Interrupter squads could stop that. But I quickly learned that 2 is actually legitimately too much. It's one thing I've learned, that you need to only bring 1 because they're just too scary. But they're riding in a nice little Land Raider Proteus, so Twin Link Glass Cannon Searchlights. They're getting somewhere. They're going to get there safely, and they're going to at least burn 1 unit to a crisp. And usually that's a Terminator unit. Continuing on to troops, I've already covered my Despoilers, my pet unit, but then I'm running 3 tactical squads, all plasma pistol power swords on them and rhinos, but nothing else. Cheap, easy power sword, plasma pistol just for the fluff, because what Dark Angel Sergeant wouldn't be caught dead without his power sword and plasma pistol? And they're being Stormwing for that +1 ballistic skill on their bolt guns. So they're always hitting on 2s in the day, even at night hitting on 3s. So they are just tossing out bolter shots like an Imperial Fist. And then another pet unit, Inducti Squad, 10-man, just with all Volkite Chargers. Just because Volkite's cool. I love it. Yeah, they're kind of weak because they're short range at 18 inches, I believe. But again, being a Rhino just gets them fast, just a little extra penchy than a tactical squad. Moving on to my heavy support, I've got a Land Raider Spartan that's carrying that 20-man pet unit just because I need him to get there safely. It's a big, scary Spartan, got flare shields, does not like to get shot down, almost always survives except against the random bike squad with melta bombs. And that's why I'm scared of your list, Beto, by the way. And then finally, my favorite unit, because it's always so good, always gets its points back, and yet never survives, Sakaran Arcus Squadron. So these missiles are just deadly. Heavy 5, twin linked, strength 8, AP2. They double out Terminators. They wound all Dreadnoughts fairly easy. Adding on 2 last cannons, and again, the helical targeting array just makes them that much meaner. And the helical targeting array is what pushes this unit kind of over the top into like a really mean unit, because when you stand still and you react fire, the helical targeting array rules say, if you're a vehicle and you're reacting, you can fire with all weapons, not just one main weapon, all weapons. So both last cannons and that missile launcher are able to shoot back in reaction phase. Now, with facing and usually a half decent opponent, they'll know to only ever let 1 last cannon get a beat on them. But when I'm going second and I see a heavy last cannon team, I just put them right there in front of them and say, hey, look, you're going to shoot at this thing. I know you will, but you're going to take 10 missiles back and 4 last cannons at full ballistic skill, no shrouds.
Strength 8, AP2 on those missiles?
That is correct. Strength 8, AP2. And that's what makes them great, honestly.
I guess I didn't realize the helical targeting array part of that.
Oh yeah, no, it is super scary. The helical targeting array.
If
on
the only thing is you just gotta give up your movement, but if you're in a good position where you can just stand still, like it's pretty gross.
Correct.
Esteban, I feel like you just like took me to class like for a minute, you know, like I feel like wiser for a minute.
Okay, so this is why I called it a little bit of a mean list, because unfortunately I am a fleeing 40k player. I love the tournament scene in 8th. 9th edition actually did burn me out. So, and 10th I just decided, you know what, I should probably stop being an asshole. Let's play Horus Heresy. That's fine. So this is unfortunately a reflex action of me to find really good things and try to make them better. But yeah, that's the list. Go ahead and tell me how bad I am at making okay lists.
I'll be honest. Like, wait,
actually, hold on. Can I just Did they FAQ helical targeting arrays?
I don't think so, but maybe they have.
Because I don't think you can actually do a return fire with helical targeting arrays. It says you can only use the interceptor or overwatch reaction.
Right. Oh,
No,
you know
it's
what
a
they
this
do?
ball affected. If you stand still, you are under the helical effects until your next turn.
Well, yeah. But if you say the model may not move, run, or declare any or make any reactions other than the interceptor or overwatch reaction, which means if it's active, you can't shoot back.
Oh, got it. You're right. You're right.
You can't return fire.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I've been asking for a roll then. Ooh, okay, I gotta apologize to several people.
Yeah, you could overwatch. You
Dude, I know
cannot
what you
return.
We
mean.
were talking about that, and I was like, wait a second. I feel like
You know what? It's
I
because
was like, how did I not know about this?
you know what? I realized why. It's because I kept using it against people using deep strikes against me, so I would always shoot everything.
oh
at
yeah,
them.
deep strike.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Deep
So
strike, yeah, totally fair game.
Okay,
Yes,
so
don't apologize to anyone.
I know I still have to
Except for the
apologize
fact
to
that
a
you
few.
built this list. No, I'm kidding.
Reed, continue to roast me.
Coursewayne,
So-
obviously, top tier. I think I will ding you a little bit because or not ding, you know what I mean. But like I automatically it will probably go up one in the ranking for me because as Coursewayne. It's a named character most of the times, like in a kind of narrative setting, like like you're obviously bringing him because he's good. And I no doubt there, like he's a monster and a half. The two contemptors are obviously like really well put together in their kind of setup as well. The Dreadwings are terrifying. I have been on the receiving end of like I'm going to talk about my Blood Angels here in a minute, and I have charged my Blood Angels into a pack of these guys, and they are it does not go well. But you know that's why you have sacrifice squad sometimes. Don't tell the inductees. Yeah, I think it's really solid. I would say though it is probably on the meaner side, probably at around a 7 or an 8, personally.
I actually don't
So-
think it's that tough.
I was gonna say like I was say if 10 is the mean and 1 is the what's the one is I feel bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm the opposite. I'm actually this is like a 2 or a 3 for me. Like the lists I run, like I'm looking at this, I'm like, dude, like my list will eat this alive. Maybe because like I'm used to like answering the questions these lists present. Like there's a Spartan, like I have an answer for that. Like there's a Despoiler squad. I have an answer for that, which is, you know, like my elite squads. Like the interemptors, like I've played against interemptors, and it's just like once if you're set up the board in a way where you don't have to charge them or get them in range, which is and the challenge is there's a land raider, but if you solve that, like okay, cool, like it's just to shoot them at last, you know. The contempt, like the plasma contemptor is like I thought that was a narrative choice, to be honest. I was like, oh, plasma cannons are cool. Because plasma cannons are terrible. So
it's there for the fear factor, but yeah.
I love the Arcuses. Like I think they're a great unit. Mine are like in the work in progress pile for like a year now, but yeah, I think it's like a 2 or a 3. Maybe because the list I play like answer all these questions that it presents. But I think it's fluffy though. I like the Deathwing. Sorry, I like Horsewain. He's amazing. He's a cool character there. I like the Moratet with the chain sword squad. That's pretty cool if you get a unit off guard and you insta-give them the first round, right? But you know, there's what was I gonna say? Yeah, there's like 3 attack squads, 4 attack squads. I guess the inductee are more like a support squad, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, I think this is opposite, but I would say this is a 2 or 3 for me, from the list I play.
John, you're much better at reading lists than I am. I will give you that. I'm very much like, you know, I feel like terrible at list building a lot of the time. I just like there for the narrative fun. Yeah. But I see, I guess what scares me, Esteban, is I'm not very familiar with Dark Angels and just the particular way that the particular sections of the Dreadwing versus the Stormwing versus them, and I see those keywords and automatically I quake in my boots because I'm like, oh no, what devilish plans does he have built in for me? Kind of like when I say, you know, I know a little bit more about the Thousand Suns specializations for their, you know, Corvidae or you know, the pyromancy guys, but I see it as kind of something similar where they're mysterious because of that.
Let me just
I
say, this is very similar to the Thousand Sons in that you can give different squads different bonuses. The difference is you don't get fucking perils for those bonuses.
That's right.
Yes.
Complete bullshit.
Mhm.
I'm
One of
with
these
John.
things is not made equal. We know that.
I'm
Hey,
with
First
John.
Legion, bro.
I gotta say I'm with John though in terms of like power level. Like I think you could stand to use the second Interemptor squad. Um, 4 tactical Marines, 4 tactical squads or whatever. That's great. Like I do think that list should always skew to have more line, but it just seems like you're you're kind of stuck between two worlds a little bit. Like, do you want to play this as a shooting list or do you want to play this more as a combat list? Because Horswain's squad is awesome, and I love the idea of him running up with heavy chain swords and spoilers, but they're still only weapon skill 4. So if they get into combat with any half decent unit, they're hitting on 5s. If they held the line, 2 attacks each, that you could very easily be like Horsewain versus the enemy squad because his backup is just never going to get there. Um, I just think it could use an Inner Knight Cenobium. It could use like one of the real like teeth kicking in Dark Angels units, and I love how fluffy it is. But yeah, I think you could go. I think you could go even more aggressive, man. And I know
Okay.
that I know that you got it in your army. You gotta pull it out.
I just don't want to scare people off.
I mean,
That's
I'm with John and Beto. I would call this a 3.
oh man.
I think I think the Chainsword squad is really cool, but yeah, it's not gonna pack a punch against elite units that I think that you want it to. Um and you have nothing to back it up, right? I mean, I guess you have like the dreadnoughts and like those are good. Like it's not like it's a weak list. I think it can present a challenge to play. The Sicarans are scary. Um the Spartan is overcosted, but it's scary.
Yeah.
You know, 2 dreadnoughts are 2 dreadnoughts.
It's a very paper tiger list.
But but there's nothing in here that like feels insurmountable or like that feels like, oh, this is a major threat I have to deal with. Everything in here is like, okay, like I can get to it when I get to it. You know, like the or like like the what are they called? The dread wings. It's like John was saying, like if you take them out before they get to you, they're kind of
Like it's solved, right? It's not like, oh, I
you
have to
solve the
fight them in
problem.
melee. Like you could just shoot them or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, like the spoilers, if you hold the line, these are guys who are attacking you with 1 attack each.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Two.
so,
Yeah, and to cover that, they are Deathwing as well, so they do get the +1 to hit with their sword. So that's kind of where I kind of rely on. So even against elites, they're hitting on 4s, and against other equivalent 4s, they're hitting on 3s. That's what makes them a little scarier. But yeah, I still see the point. It's still very swing and miss, especially when you get armor saves.
Yeah, because it's still chain swords, right? Like if you smash against a Terminator unit, like they have power weapons
that has
and
a
they have a 2
save.
and they have
Yeah.
2 up saves.
Right.
Yeah, you have like 40 attacks that hit on 4s, but
what I give them is
swing
that
back.
they're cheap.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like
And,
if you
like,
had like
that's
a
where-
second squad of them, like, yeah, I don't know. It feels like there's something missing, I guess, that would make it a little bit scary.
That makes me feel a lot better. I thought I made a mean list when I wrote this up, so the fact that it seems
maybe
kind of soft makes me feel better.
Maybe
I think
I learned not to be a jerk. Yay!
why not run spoiler squad as a command squad? Because you're getting the line, except you're getting weapon skill 5, and if you want to keep the theme of like swords, you can give them power swords and make them. It's just
because honestly, if I'm gonna run a command squad with Horsemen, it's gonna be Deathwing companions, and
oh sure,
they're just I love them so much, but they're
do they gain
they don't gain line, which is what kind of makes
Okay.
them it is like unit where you do just take 10 tyrannic greatswords and then wipe anything that comes up against them off the cross of the face of the earth, which is why I
I mean,
kind of
because
don't
if you
wanna run
did that and then you still had the spoiler squad with the Moritat, I think that would be something that would be a little bit scarier to deal
Yeah.
with.
I don't think that a spoiler can have the Moratat has the rule where you can only go with destroyers.
They FAQ'd
They
that.
they
They
FAQ'd
They
that.
literally just FAQ'd that like a month ago.
They clarified
I mean,
that.
you're
Yeah,
behind
it's-
the times.
I am behind on the
Which is-
times.
which is
Sorry, guys.
cool.
I've
Yeah,
been
Like
moving,
that
I
was
have
a
not
very
been
divisive
checking.
FAQ because of what's his name? The Blood Angels character.
Oh,
Aster Core. Oh no! You're talking about not the
Zephon?
one from
Zephon.
Zephon.
yeah.
Yeah, he has that special rule. And instead of them just saying, oh, hey, we're going to get rid of him having that special rule, they made it so that independent characters with that special rule can join any squad. So
They
that
have
it's not just
So
like,
bad.
which like, that's what makes Moratat, like made Moratat's like stupid good now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm behind on the times then.
Okay, so it looks like overall consensus is this is actually a kind of a weak list, landing on 3. Reed is the only one scared of it, mostly due to inexperience with Dark Angels. Yeah.
I think you could.
Your paper tiger got me.
The paper tiger got you. Good. Okay, cool.
Well, truthfully, once again, like I understand, like really fundamentally, like the spoilers are nothing to like really like start getting scared of, and especially in a Spartan. But Corswin in there is that force multiplier, and obviously like you think that it's going to do something, and obviously like once again, what I said is it's cheap, which means that you're instead of like because I have a Salamander player, I love to run Fire Drakes. But if I'm going to run a 10-man squad of Fire Drakes in a Spartan, that's 1,000 points right there. And then all of a sudden, my list looks much smaller. So like, I got a really cool, really cool unit that's going to go kick somebody's butt. But then all of a sudden, when its ride's broken down and they're having to huff it across the field, they're a lot less threatening.
No,
Yeah.
that is true. That this is honestly why the list looks so scary, because it looks like there's so much. I mean, I am running
Right.
70 Marine bodies. It's just the problem is there's 70 Marine bodies.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I tend to think of named characters as like, for the most part, I enjoy the fluff of them, but I don't find them to be scary just because most of the time they're not really doing that much in a game.
Yeah, like
can't
they're a
get
good
them
melee
across the
unit.
board that
Cool.
quickly. They're going to
Mhm.
kill 1 or 2 units. You could potentially be put in a situation where they're challenged and basically taken out of the game because they're killing one thing at a time.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over this
Or-
with my list, but I like the special characters that do more than just here's a big stick and I'll delete your character.
Yeah.
In melee.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are only T5 or T4 and they're not battle hardened. So a
Yeah.
lot of them, a Power Fist or a Thunderhammer is going to take them out in one swing.
Yeah.
Which is just like, I think that needs to be changed. Like if you have a named character, they should all be T5 or be a battle hardened one.
Eternal Warrior, like let's just go.
Yeah,
Oh,
or
yeah.
Eternal Warrior. Like,
Yeah.
like, the named
Biggest fan-
characters shouldn't be that easy to take out. So don't even, Beto, you.
I don't know. Sigismund's pretty good.
I've
Just
taken him out
challenge
with the
lock
Siege
him.
Drain. You calm
Just
down.
challenge lock him.
So wait,
Well,
if
I-
everyone gets Eternal Warrior, then
That-
Sigismund just becomes immortal. All right, that's how we scaled it correctly.
Wasn't
Sigismund
he
cannot
already
be
that?
slain. Eh,
He's basically a perpetual like Vulcan then.
He would be.
I will say though,
Say,
the one
I
person
have
who
killed
really
Sigismund
needs to
in
get
most of the games that Beto and I have played with him. So
What were you saying,
Abaddon
Reed?
is absolutely the person in the game right now who needs Eternal Warrior the
Yeah.
most.
At
I
least he has
think, like,
battle hardened, but like he needs
Yeah,
Eternal
but
Warrior.
like
yeah,
out of any character who deserves it from that setting to the 40k setting, I think he deserves it.
yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah,
fact that
cool.
Sigismund has it and not Abaddon is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
blows me away.
They need to give Abaddon more plot armor in the rules, man. He doesn't have enough. He should have his own. It looks like a PDF. His page in the Liber Heredity.
You should have a teleport to safety rule. Like,
Yes,
Mhm.
he's
like
about to
no
die. You just
victory
teleport
points.
him back away, and he's
Never get Slay the Warlord.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know?
yeah.
That'd be a
some-
cool rule.
Yeah.
this is devolving into complaining about rules. We need to get to the next list. Who's next?
okay.
I'll go.
Go for it, John.
All right, so this is a variation of my word bearers list, which was kind of disgusting. So I kind of toned it down a bit by adding demon brutes, which tells you a lot about this list. So it's big thing with this list is it is led by Erebus. So Erebus is what he does is he lets me summon demons. So he lets you take a HQ or elite choice from the Ruin Storm list, and I've chosen to take a squad of Demon Brutes, so 6 of them, and they have essentially Brutal 2 weapons that are AP3, but they are AP2 on a 6-up, I believe. And they're demons, so they get the demon rule where turn 1, they have +1 strength and toughness, and turn 2, they still have +1 strength and toughness, right, Beto?
That's right.
Yep, and then they go down to regular strength and toughness turn 3. And the way Erebus works, you summon in the shooting phase. So you essentially pick a point, you make a leadership check if you don't want it to scatter, otherwise it scatters. And then the demons come in, they move from that point, and they could charge. Now, they could be intercepted, but I kind of play this mind game or puzzle game where if you use the intercept reaction, it means you can't use your return fire, or if you use your return fire, it means you can't intercept it. So I have a 10-man last cannon squad for, one, because it's a really good unit. Everyone knows that. But it also lets me play that kind of return fire game of, I'm going to shoot your last cannon squad. Do you want to return fire? Okay, cool. Well, now they can't shoot my demons. And the demons, they're not as nasty as other melee units, but they're big, they're tough, they have a lot of wounds. They, if I do spike on 6s, that's a lot of wounds they could do at AP2 with Brutal 2. So, but they're also just kind of, it's like a meat unit. There's 3 of them, they have 3 wounds, or 6 of them, so it's a lot of wounds. They have invul save. So that's a big part of the list. The other thing I ran is a Centurion with a command squad. So the command squad has couple power swords, couple power axes, couple of power fists, and the standard bearer. So I love the command squad. It's a line unit with weapon skill 5 that's super customizable, and they have a 2-up save, and they have a jump pack, so they kind of hop around getting into melee where they need to be. The Centurion is a Thunderhammer. If the squad could take Thunderhammers, I would give them Thunderhammers, but they can't, so they just have power weapons. I think it's a lightning claw there because it's a cool weapon. It's having your demonic claws for your word bearers, and it's like 4 attacks on that one guy, 5 on the charge, so helps me chew through some chaff or just throw more attacks against an elite unit. So there's that. And then they got Erebus, and for elites I got 2 Contemptors, the basic vanilla loadout, which is Melta Cannon and a Grabbing Fist with a Melta Gun. Contemptors doing Contemptor things. And then there's John's famous Galvorback squad. So 10 Galvorback. 2 of them have double claws, and 2 of them have power fists. So I played this Galvorback unit in like 50 games, and it's really just a delivery system for those 2 power fists. I mean, yeah, there's times where I spike really hard, and I get a lot of kills with the Murderous Strike, Rending 6-up weapon, but the real damage with the consistent damage is those strength 10 power fists. And if on the charge, it's 5 attack, or so it's 10 attacks, 5 per guy. And if they hold the line, it's still 6 attacks at strength 10 AP2. Then I got a Tech Marine, so for a cheap Cognitive Signum on the heavy support squad. And then for my troops, I got 2 Despoiler squads. Sergeant is Artificer and a Power Axe, and 2 Despoilers have Power Axes. These are essentially my kind of midfield line unit. So they get to the midfield. I wanted to do like a Despoiler squad instead of Tac squad, so they could get in melee and they do stuff. They don't just kill over to units that bully them out. Then I got the 2 recon squads with Nemesis bolters. So this is a variation of a previous list, which I built for Next Gen's 30K league, and that league had a special mission system which used the cards from 7th edition, like the Maelstrom of War mission. So objectives were, you could score them all over the place. So I wanted some recon squads so I could get midfield or just deploy them in the rear and rack up some objective points. And they're also there for sniping out sergeants and all that. They're a pretty good unit. And then finally, besides the heavy support squad, I got a Daredeo with last cannons and the regular missiles. That's Daredeos, it's a cool unit. It's not insane. It's 2 strength 10 last cannons with Sunder and the one rule where you get an extra penetration hit on a 5-up, which I think happened has Exo Shock. Yeah, it's happened like once. So, but it's a solid unit. And the Rite of War, I'm running Dark Brethren. So long story short, Dark Brethren is at the start of the game, you pick a unit of the enemy, and if you kill that unit, you get to buff one of your units with +1 weapon skill, movement, and strength. And the range element of this list is to make sure I can reliably get that, because with a last cannon squad and some recon and the Daredeo, it's pretty easy to at least kill a unit a turn in the shooting phase, or wound them so I don't get the perils penalty. But yeah, that's my list. Feel free to tell me how stupid it is.
No, I love this list. I think it's the hardest hitting one so far.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, maybe I'm biased because I love word bearers as a word bearer, but I think this list is not only like super fun, it kind of in the meta, I feel like people have been down talking Gal Vorback a lot. They're like, oh, you know, you really need to spike those 6s to get them to do much. But the way you run them with the twin Power Fist and Erebus, theoretically, like have that AP2 confirming, like hurting a Dreadnought or making sure that you're getting some wounds through, it will really hurt them. And then chewing through that squad because Erebus is fearless, because of Corrupted, because you can never select Erebus to shoot at, you can guarantee that those brutes are going to come in. And I have fallen for the trap of, I'll return fire or I'll shroud on something, and then allowing the brutes to jump in. And it was a huge mistake. I have gotten by that. Yeah, this is, and the two recon squads too, that you could just pick out a sergeant or like some random small character. I mean, for my White Scars list, like you could very easily get a lucky round of 5 snipers and kill my warlord, you know, like that's huge. I think it does everything it does and well. So I think this is like, or an 8. Like this is like an aggressive list. I think in the best way, but I think it's it's definitely the scariest one.
Yeah, I feel that because a lot of the units here, they have a job. I think the weakest units here are the spoiler squads, because like if they get caught on a melee unit, they're kind of screwed. I hope I roll 5s on my axes, right? But if they get hit with a bully unit, which rarely happens, then they'll win out. But no, even them, they have a job, but everything else, yeah, like this will punch something to death or shoot something to death reliably.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I can go next. I think this is a tough list. I mean, I'm funny because I'm of two minds with this, because on the one hand, in my Thousand Suns, I'm like, I feel like your scariest units in this list are the units that I could most easily destroy with my Thousand Suns. So I'm like, if I was playing with my Thousand Suns, I wouldn't be that scared of this list. But with everything else, I would be. You know? I mean, not to say that it would be like a pushover game. I think it would still be a tough game. But I'm like, Gal Vorback fall to pieces against like anything Force. But how many lists have more than one Force weapon? You know? So like any other Legion is going to really struggle against taking out those Gal Vorback and those demons while they're getting shot to shit by snipers and las cannons. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I would give it like a 7. Like I'll kind of like balance it out between like the Thousand Suns versus, you know, my other armies that would really struggle, I think, against this list.
Well, I think I really whiffed my my review of the last one, but I think I'm gonna stay consistent with everyone on this one and say probably like a 7. Obviously, you adding Erebus, you know, kind of like what I talked about, it's like a named character obviously brings something extra to a list, which like once again, you're right that Erebus is a really cool character besides Corswain. Like Corswain, beat stick, cool dude. Erebus, bad motherfucker who's like, you know, gonna ruin everything and ruin your day because he's got some interesting rules. Obviously 2 Contemptors is a tough cookie, and you have a lot of like I see your army coming as a huge wave. You know, 2 Contemptors, 6 Gal Vorback, the 10 jump packs, and then obviously all of a sudden demon brutes out of nowhere. It's a, you know, it's kind of scary in that way, while obviously you have a little bit of last cannon fire to support them from the back. I think it's really solid. And really kind of what you could expect from seeing a you know, a fairly competitive word bearer player.
I should play better with this list. Like who's the craziest word bearer player?
Oh, I was gonna say that I would love to play my word bearers versus yours. Just the battle of Mount Maradal.
Can one of you play Can one of you play Corferon? So like,
that'd be fluffy.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, Erebus, like, we were just talking about this. Like, first of all, I just have to say, fuck Erebus. But
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
after
Yes,
that,
yes,
just
yes,
like
yes.
It's the
that's
best.
exactly what we're talking about, where it's like the characters that are just really good at close combat but don't offer much else, like they're not as scary to me as Erebus is. Like the fact that he is hard to kill, that he offers a lot of protection, and he also like grants the like demon summoning. Like these are some really good rules that most characters don't really give you.
And he's also not like a pushover in melee. Like I think he's strength 7, AP2, unwieldy, but with one leadership check, he's a power fist. He's strength 8, so he could do some stuff, which is nice about him because everyone hates him. Hey man, we're all playing Heresy because of Erebus, okay? Everyone's playing 30K. We have this cool podcast because some loser decided to steal someone else's name
They
and
really should
corrupt
rename it
Horus.
the
So
Erebus Heresy, shouldn't they?
so fun fact, if you guys didn't know, so in the lore, Erebus isn't his real name. There was a kid in his preschool named Erebus that was everyone's favorite. So Erebus kills that kid and takes his name. I am not making this up. This is in a short story. So
I love that
um,
origin. How
yeah,
fit the biggest villain in Horus Heresy.
yeah.
All right, I think it's my turn
He's
to
a
give my
bad dude.
opinion. So yeah, now this is definitely an 8 for me, and only because reconnaissance squads, heavy support squad with Tech Marine, and Contemptor Dreadnoughts,
Yeah.
everything that everyone complained about at the very first weeks, it's like
Yep.
all there, and I'm like, not that I know this wouldn't be fun to play against, and honestly, the redeeming factor is the Deredeo there, because I love the Deredeo. I can never hate someone who brings the Deredeo, but I would see this and I'd be like, I'm gonna have a hard time. So it's definitely a strong list. I think what makes it particularly strong is just the durability from the Galvor back and the Contemptors. So many wounds, all the invulnerable saves, just difficult to wound. That's what I think is the hard block on this one. With plus the demon brutes. This is that elites is just the hard core of your army, and if you can't chew through it, you don't have much of a choice to get through the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely a
Cool.
strong list, definitely. And I forget what does the Rite of War for Dark Brethren do again? That gives you I forget what it does.
Oh, this
I know
better
it
want
does
to
something
explain because
nasty.
I actually learned this from him. So
Oh yeah.
Worst.
So
Hate it.
at the beginning of the game, you select a unit. If you kill that unit, any squad in your army gets a +1 weapon skill, a +1 movement, and a +1 strength, which can be huge because all of a sudden your Gal Vorback squad is now weapon skill 6, strength 6, and you can buff any unit up to 3 times. So theoretically, you could get those Gal Vorback up to weapon skill 8 if you got
strength 14 power fist. So now you're insta killing dreadnoughts if you get to that level.
Yeah.
Very rarely does that happen, but it's funny I've gotten assault squads up to strength 7, and all of a sudden their chain swords can really do some damage to Dreadnought. That's
yeah.
Yeah, but no, this is definitely a scary list. It's definitely one that I would see across the table and I'd be like, oh man, I gotta really think about how I'm gonna do this because I am in for a fight.
I have a small variation for the list that kind of tones it down a bit, and it's replacing the recon squads. I just take away their nemesis bolter, so they just become objective monkeys, and then the heavy support squad becomes a warpfire plasma squad, and the warpfire plasma squad is still pretty scary. It's assault 2, no gets hot breaching far up, but it's a 24-inch range, and it's a 24-inch range, so they got to move up. They can't just return fire something, and they can't really do stuff against vehicles. But even then, like there's the command squad, there's the Calvorback, there's the dreadnoughts, there's the brutes. So it's a beefcake of a list, but
it is.
And those Warpfire Plasma, the special ones, they're pinning too. So you can like
pinning,
those scare me. Yeah, like I hate playing against those.
Yeah.
I think it's now Reed's turn, right?
Yeah.
He's
It's
gonna
Reed's
present
turn,
his
yeah.
list.
Saving the best for last.
Best
All
Legion.
right, yeah, best. So I'll be talking about a Blood Angels list. So I think Blood Angels are in a really weird spot. I built my Blood Angels originally for Heresy 1, which was very much about the Day of Revelation at the time. In 2.0, we've all swapped over, I think, to Day of Sorrow. I think that's really the one to target, really, because once you hit 50% with any squad, it gains hatred, it gains stubborn if it's within 6 of an objective, and it gains Heart of the Legion. So it becomes line.
And line.
So Yeah, so line is a huge deal,
Crazy.
obviously, and especially like once again because obviously a lot of the new missions that are coming out in the campaign books, they've obviously implemented a lot more objective based games where line obviously is king. So all of a sudden, my list goes to everything basically becomes line. So like I just kind of like get to throw it out the window and be like, okay, whatever. Most of it's gonna fit that criteria by the end. Um, Really, besides that, I won't bog everyone down with too much detail, but really it comes down to I'm running a Praetor, who I gave a Paragon Blade and a jump pack, and he's gonna go really fast up the board. And he's got a librarian with biomancy with a jump pack as well, who's gonna be there to help buff him up on turns that he's charging. Accompanying him are two squads of Dawnbreakers, 10-man squads. There's an Axe of Perdition and Melta Bombs on the squads, an Apothecary for each squad. So like what happens is like you deploy the Librarian and the Praetor with one of the squads. Most of the time, the opponent in the first round of shooting destroys said squad, and that's when the other squad is conveniently nearby and you break them off and you join the other one and then you proceed up the board into your further escapades. So really what it is it's just a little redundancy. I build into that as much as I can, I hope. So two squads Dawnbreakers, two apothecaries that are attached to them. From there, it really boils down to I have a Tech Marine with a Cogna Signum that I end up putting with a heavy weapons squad with las cannons. Big surprise. That really was my punch up for my list because at one point in time I was like, I really don't know if I had anything to take out a Land Raider, like let alone a Spartan, if it was coming at me. So I like eventually just added those. This is a slight tweak on my LVO 2,500 point list I was bringing. Just as a FYI for how I've been doing this. But then really from there, I put in 3 assault squads, all 10-man squads, bare bones, except 2 of them have artificer armor on the sergeant. I had 20 points left over, so I just gave them artificer armor. I have a squad of tactical marines and a rhino. I have 2 separate contemptor incendious dreadnoughts, the Blood Angel specific jump back dreadnoughts in my fast attack. And then there I also have for my third and final fast attack slot, the 3 javelins with las cannons. Once again, just to give a little bit more fire support for my fast running army. And then from there, as I mentioned, a heavy weapon support with the las cannons to do all of the dirty intercepting that happens this edition, and then 2 Scorpiuses. That was something I threw in earlier today when I was building the list because I was like, that kind of matches with the theme of kind of going a little faster, but also it's a mobile artillery battery instead of like somebody bringing rapiers to help. That's more of like an infantry hold the line, while like Scorpius is kind of like a more mobile. So that's why I put it in with this, like the theme of like a Praetor has been given an issue of like, okay, you have to assault this position. Here's some fast moving elements. Go take that point, which is very much the Blood Angel MO. And really what we talked about with Beto with his White Scars, with the idea that he has board control. What I like about this army is that most things have a jump back. And so with that, I'm trying to control the flow of battle. So at LVO, I actually, like I said, I brought this list and my Praetor ended up taking home the most challenges in the event, and it was because he just ended up like it just almost was every turn you can kind of dictate the flow of battle pretty precisely. I get a lot of tactical options with them being so fast, and yeah, with that he ended up just being a murder house and just went ham on everyone, and really was the MVP of this list. And he was just kind of a Praetor with Paragon Blade. That's my list though, because like once again, that list gets to 50%, which like sometimes you might want to break him off from the Dawnbreakers, but sometimes you might not want to, because like all of a sudden he might have a hatred unit if he sticks around with a kind of a broken down squad. But they all have 2 wounds, 2 up armor. The artificer armor obviously, and the apothecary helps to double their efficiency. So that's kind of a quick breakdown.
I'm curious because I found this out not too long ago. Do you know what the Melta Bomb trick with Dawnbreakers or Dawnbringers?
Tell me, I might not. What's up?
So the spear read is lacking a rule that most spears have, which is 2-handed. Now,
right.
it doesn't matter because they don't have bolt pistol, because then you'll get 2 attacks, right?
Right. They had the gauntlet.
Right. But melted bombs are melee weapons. So you get 2 attacks with melted bombs and Dawnbreakers. So yeah.
It's something to think about.
Yeah. So melted bombs are super good on them because 1, you have melted bombs, and 2, they give you +1 attack because a melted bomb counts as a melee weapon. And now they have 2 melee weapons. So they have +1 attack. Yeah.
I'll go look into that because like that's
Yeah.
interesting to think about where
Right?
then it's 25 points basically that you're paying to give them a +1 attack to all of them. Which
And
is a
melted
good
bombs,
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, let alone the melted bomb option in there. But
yeah, a +1 attack melted bomb, like, and a fantastic upgrade already, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah,
lean into me, fellas. Like now's the time. I think it's like it did fairly well at LVO. I went undefeated in my list, but once again, it's just because like I like the tactical flow of it.
I really like it. I'm starting with a 5 and I'm going up to like the 10, and there's some elements where it's like it's more tame, like the assault squad's not having power weapons, the javelins not having meltas, but then you have like the Dawnbreakers, and then you have the heavy support squad and the Scorpius, which pushes it up to like I would give like a 6 or 7. I would love to play against this list. This is a super cool Blood Angel list, and this makes me want to finish painting my Dawnbreakers because they're such a cool unit. Like,
yeah, dude, they rock. And like, so I once again I was playing first edition where like I literally did like 40 or 50 assault marines and 30 Dawnbreakers. So I was like, I've tried to like really lean still into that portion of the Blood Angels, but they're definitely hurting with the Day of Revelation right now.
Yeah. But I like it. I will give it a 6 or 7.
Yeah.
I think it's strong and it's still fun.
I'm John. I totally agree. I think this is one of the harder hitting lists. I think 2 Scorpiuses is always going to be bad news. That's exactly what my White Scars or my Wood Bearers would hate to see across the table. For your fast attack, you said you're running 3 javelins, but is there any other fast attack choices that you're taking?
The 2 dreadnoughts are
the 2 dreadnoughts. Yeah. So my dreadnoughts actually go in that slot. My fast attack is way overtaxed in my Blood Angels, actually. Like I have a lot of things I want to run there. But I totally agree with what I don't remember who was I think it was Ubeda who was running the other javelins and saying run them separately. That is absolutely the way to do it. But with the dreadnoughts for the Blood Angels, I think they're awesome. First off. But you can't take them in talent. So automatically, I want to take 2 of them. So then all of a sudden I only have 1 fast attack slot left over. So I
guess that is nice to have the extra elite slots, but yeah, I didn't realize that the dreadnoughts became fast attack for Blood Angels.
Yeah.
Because they have a jump pack. That's the special one. Yeah.
It's only once per game that they use the jump pack, right?
It's once per game, yeah.
So the secret is that you just run them the first turn, and then you use it the second turn when you're in range.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And you can also run them behind like a building so they don't get shot and just hop over it.
Right.
Yeah. They would get a Hammer of Wrath as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a great list. I think this is along with John's probably the scariest one to play against just from hearing the list alone. I think it's like a 6 or 7. Yeah, I would be scared of it for sure.
Very cool.
It has answers to all the things that I am the most scared of. So it's like blast templates and fast something that's faster than my White Scars, like instantly scary.
I agree with that. And John, like, also, I mean, Blood Angels are one of the 4 legions I haven't played yet. So like I'm coming from a place of where like I don't know how this legion plays because I just haven't played it yet. But yeah, I mean, 2 Scorpiuses are like, it doesn't matter what legion they're in, they're scary.
Pretty good, yeah.
Las Cannon Squad, they're scary. Like javelins are fucking great. Dreadnoughts that can move 12 inches are fucking great. You've got a lot of really strong stuff in this list that I would be like unsure of what to target first, right? When you're struggling with target priority because everything is scary to you, that's how you know you're
right.
like a strong list, because you're like, all of this stuff can hurt me right away. So Yeah, I think that would I would probably make it a 7. But it's also like it's something I would definitely want to play and just kind of
Yeah.
see how it goes. But I would be a little hesitant as well, just being like trying to figure out what the best strategy going into it would be.
All right, well, get
And
ready, Randy. I'll see you on Sunday.
I also want to just like double down with what Reed was talking about, but the Rite of War, like the bonuses you get, because I also played J Revelation like an LVO 2 years ago, and just like your Dawnbreakers randomly like, oh, they have line now. Oh, I killed your unit. Oh, this objective's mine now. Like, oh, because they have hatred too. Like, it's so good.
Well, it's
Yeah,
hatred. It's the heart of the Legion. So then all of a sudden with the
yeah.
apothecaries as
The
well,
four up,
they're
yeah,
getting a plus.
yep,
Yeah, they're getting a
yeah,
bonus. They're 2 wounds. They're 2 up
yep.
saves. Like the only thing they're missing is an invul, which
Is that
like
info?
right.
Yeah, but yeah.
The land raider that's going to shoot them to try to kill them or take them off the objective. Well, that's great. I'm in the shroud, so you get essentially an invulnerable save, which is crazy. That
Yeah, yeah. It's a great Rite of
But
War. It's also fluffy as hell.
yeah. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think I like the Sorrow. It's really been growing on me, and I've started to kind of look into Crimson Paladins and how you can make them more viable in that because they become troops in that one.
not line though, just troops.
They
Well,
got
they
line.
become line halfway through.
No,
Well,
they
yeah, I
get
think they
line.
have line
Yeah,
base.
in the Rite of War.
Yeah.
Okay.
Esteban, what do you think?
Esteban.
No, yeah, this is definitely a 7 in my book. It's fast, it's strong, it's got a really strong melee punch, and its ranged is very good at saturation. Just the like, for example, just the 3 javelins are just throwing out last cannon shots. You have to start shooting back, and because it's on a wound system rather than the armor system of vehicles, you're going to spend at least 2 turns taking them out. Probably even a third or fourth, honestly, because it's just hard to chunk down on the 4 toughness 6 wounds, even with 3 up armor save. And then again, the 2 score pieces are just adding on to that power. So anyone out in the open is just getting hammers. So this is definitely a strong list. And the assault squads, just I love jump pack armies, and seeing Blood Angels jump pack army just makes a special part in my heart. Just so happy.
Me too.
But yeah, no, this is definitely a 7. This is where I look at it and I'm like, this is fun. I'm gonna have a fun fight here because I'm gonna have to actually think how I'm gonna win this.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thanks, guys. Yeah. And that's the thing is like it was brought up at the first part of this where it's like, I see a lot of 40K players where it's like it is less a little it seems to be. I will admit I'm not as familiar as I used to be. Dedicated transports seem to be less of the meta, and it is more about just walk up and shoot and try to take your opponent off the board. Compared to a lot of our lists, like I think besides the word bearer list by John, like a lot of these have a lot of mobility, as well. Like, and not to say that John doesn't as well in there, but like
The
a lot of them
vehicles,
have a lot of rhinos. I saw some land raiders, some Spartans, and then obviously just like jump pack / fast units in general.
Yeah, because in Heresy, there's very few ways to protect your unit other than putting it in a transport. Whereas in 40K, there's so many like stratagems and tools where, yeah, like my unit has some defensive tech now, so dedicated transport aren't as needed. But well, in 30K, like you have your interrupters or your kinet or your blade occult. Well, if they're on a transport, they're like running up, they're gonna get shot, they're gonna die. So you got to put them inside
Yeah.
something. And word bearers, thankfully, you have that the reaction where you just remove a model if you're getting shot at. So that's helped a lot. And I also just hate painting vehicles. So I build lists around the idea of like I know vehicles because I don't want to work on them. What do I do? How do I get things fast across? But no, yeah, I agree. I think the use of transports is I think crucial for a lot of units that would just get shot off the board otherwise.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. So this episode's running a little bit long, so I feel like this is a good place to probably start
It's
wrapping it up.
It's only cresting over an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Fine, right? Hour 45.
Closer to 2 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5
Sure.
almost.
So let's just do like a quick hobby update. Why doesn't everybody just say something that you're working on right now, and then we'll wrap it up. Who wants to start us off?
I will. Terrain. That is my thing I'm working on right now. I'm trying to get done with all of my Sector Imperialis. I have basically a cathedral of this shit ready, and I just need to get it painted. So pray to the dark gods for me and my gold painting.
There we go.
All right.
Still,
How
yeah.
about you?
I'm still working on my white scars. I got the Kazagan, the special javelins. I got 2 of them that I'm trying to paint up, and then I will be very firmly at about like 3,500 points. And I feel once I get maybe a couple other things painted, I'm pretty happy with the white scars. So I'm seeing that finish line.
Nice.
Esteban?
I'm unfortunately in the pile of shame here. I haven't really had much hobby progress. I've made a little bit of headway with other hobby projects. You know, I finally finished a Necromunda gang for me and my friends that were freaking complain. I think I mentioned that last time too. But it's been really slow for me, honestly. I haven't made much progress on my own terrain or my own Dark Angels. I haven't even assembled a Marine in like 3 months, so I'm slowly having to gear back because we've got a bunch of stuff coming up this year. I know, so I need to actually start getting back into that. So I'll try to paint something for the next episode, give you some better progress.
Nice.
Okay, John. What do you think?
Working on some Sons of Horus. So there's a little dude here. It's for my seeker / tax squad. Yeah,
Nice.
I've been doing that, but I got sidetracked. But in Heresy, I always get sidetracked by other stuff. But in Heresy, I was listening to End of the Death Part 2, and there's this section. I actually sent Beto this random MP3 I recorded of Sanguinius and his company attacking the Vengeful Spirit, and it describes like the Blood Angel host, and I'm like, oh, this is so freaking cool. So I'm like, all right, gonna build some Sanguinary Guard for this command squad and finish my Dawnbreakers. And so I'm like, I want to build this heavy support squad for Sons of Horus, but like, I want to do some Blood Angels. So I've been bouncing back and forth between that. But yeah, just Aaron came in, so I want to work on that too. But so many things, backlog is just eternal war, So
John,
you,
we gotta
Randy?
find a time that we can bring both of our Blood Angels together. One of us
I'm
will have to
down.
roll off to bring Sanguinius, and whoever gets to bring the Sanguinary Guard. But
I'm down. I'm freaking down.
let's do it, dude.
My dudes are ready. What's your Randy?
I finished 20 Legion Auxilia, like Solar Ox las rifle troopers for my 1,000 Sons to be little perils preppers.
Peril tokens, yeah.
Which
It's like 20 points of units.
Are you painting them as the Spire Guard?
Yeah.
Out of curiosity. That's
Nice.
awesome. I can't wait to see them.
So those are done. And they were like, I enjoyed painting like the first 3 of them, and then the last 17, I was like not having fun anymore. Like, because they're so tiny and they have so much detail, and there were so few points. Every one you finish, you're like, I just want this to be over. So I don't think I'll ever
right,
paint
that's
any more
two
Solar
points
Ox.
done.
It's like,
I know, right? It's like every time I think about making a Solar Ox army, I make a list on Battlescribe, and it's like maybe not. There's like 200 dudes here.
and then I swung to the opposite side of that. The combat patrol box that I was talking about for the Custodes, I was like, I could do like a few points of Custodes because I have, nothing else I'm working on right now. And so I started painting some of those up, and I'm really enjoying the color scheme. I'm doing it a little bit darker so they're not like super bright. Cause I'm like, I feel like these guys need to be a little bit more threatening. Like the classic like shiny gold just feels a little off to me.
Fair.
They're a little bit more burnished. A little bit more menacing, hopefully. I'm liking where it is right now. We'll see. I might tinker with it a bit. I still haven't decided on how I want to base them, but that's my current project.
I've been learning how to paint marble with recently. That is in the mindset of like how to base Custodes. Like marble is kind of always the go-to, but I've been trying to figure out how to do it for the tops of my Sector Imperialis terrain.
Yeah, I've done a couple tests with the marble. I don't love how it looks yet, so I might try a couple more and just see if there's anything I like. But yeah, we'll see.
Are you doing a full army or just an allied detachment of them?
Of course I was like, I'm just gonna do a few points, and then I saw some like Forge World models for cheap on eBay, and I was like, I can buy them. Like I've already bought like over 2,000 points worth of models, so it's a
slippery slope.
Be slightly larger.
There you go.
That's just the combat patrol is 2,000 points, right?
No, the combat patrol is like around 700.
Oh.
Which is pretty great, and that's not even accounting that's like I'm planning on selling the Alaris guys in there because I don't think that they would fit with anything I want to build.
Fair.
That's literally just like the shield captain and the 2 troop squads is like 700 points. Which is pretty cool for like building an army and not having to paint that many models.
Yeah.
And they just look fucking cool too. Like each one of them looks like a Praetor, like with the detail and like the pose.
Yeah.
Have you read Master of Mankind?
Yeah.
Oh, so
Dude,
good.
That book, man, for custodies, oof, 10 out of 10.
I don't know if you guys can see it, but I got Master of Mankind hung it up.
I see it.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I also have
Glorious.
the Major Kill did like a Emperor mini last year, and I got one. So like at some point,
That's cool.
I'm gonna like, I don't know if I feel like I'll be able to paint him myself. That might be like the one model I get commission painted to just have like a really cool
I'm
Emperor
very
mini.
jealous, friend, because I did want to buy I wanted to buy a pair of those because I really wanted to make a statue out of one of them because it looks like it would make a great terrain piece. Just
Yeah.
put them on a plinth and be like, hey, listen, this is what we're fighting over. There's a statue of the Emperor here. It looks really cool. Someone's got to fight over it.
So at least now he has a bodyguard, and I do want to at some point do like a vengeful spirit battle, like with the Custodes, Sons of Horus, Blood Angels, demons. Like, I know we've talked about doing, some battle reps at some point in the future, and I definitely think that would be top of my list of things to do if we can figure out how to manage that. I think that would be awesome.
We can play on the desert board and just put Dorn in the middle. And then
Yes.
Turn 1, Dorn digs in the sand.
Yeah.
Turn 200, Dorn is still digging in the sand.
It's crazy. Like I'm relisting the second book, as I mentioned, from End of the Death, and yeah, the scenes were like, yeah, Doran, remembers a book from his childhood for the next 2 years, and it's like, dude, what are you doing?
Dude, a desert will do strange things to your mind.
This is true.
Even a Primarch's mind.
All right, guys, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Please like, subscribe, comment, let us know if there's anything you guys want us to cover in the future, if you have any cool lists that you would like to share. And we will see you next time. Adios.
Great.
Later,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.